Hi, Year 3. Today, Mrs. Nettey and Miss Bamford are going to do a special reading session with you on Flat Stanley. So I hope you like it and let us know what you think at the end. So, Miss Bamford, I haven't read up to this chapter. Can you please give me a summary of what has happened so far?
Oh, yes. Let me fill you in on what has happened so far up until chapter 6. So, Stanley received a letter from a mysterious person. So, he's posted himself off to Egypt to take part in a really important archaeological project. So, we don't really know what that archaeological project is. But now Stanley has arrived in Egypt. He's met a friend called Amicy and her dad, who works at the museum. And finally, he's met the man who sent him the letter. In year 3, we were all thinking, we've had a good think about Sir Abu Shenti, and we don't think he's a very good guy, Mrs. Nettey.
Oh, no.
So we are thinking that he is up to no good, but we don't know for sure yet. So we have already been predicting about what this bad surprise is going to be. So we can't wait to read this chapter to find out what is this bad surprise. And I don't know if things are going to looking too good for Stanley.
I'm excited to find out what happens then.
Me too. So chapter 6, a bad surprise. Stanley closed the tomb's door behind him and set off, following the hieroglyphs at every branch. Before long, he came to another button on the wall, just like the one in the tomb. He pressed it, and once again, a large panel, a huge block of stone, swung open. Stanley stepped outside into the fresh air.
Sir Hawara and his guards came rushing over when they saw Stanley. Well, Sir Hawara demanded, hopping on one foot and then the other, the scrolls. Miss Bamford, when I first read this, I thought that he might be doing some exercises, like when we have to follow Joe Wicks and we have to hop on one foot and then the other. Do you think the author meant that?
Oh, I don't think so, Mrs. Nettey. What I think the author wants you to know here is that Sir Hawara was obviously nervous, and he was excited to find out if Stanley was able to actually find those scrolls or not. So that's why I think he's hopping from one foot to the other.
More like nervous, anxiously waiting.
Yes.
Not doing a Joe Wicks workout.
Not doing Joe Wicks workout.
Thank you for clarifying that. Back to our text. I found them, Stanley told him. Suddenly, he felt quite proud. He had located the priceless giant scrolls of papyrus, and now he was safely outside in the warm sunshine. It had all been worth it. And I found the passageway out. There are lots of branches in the passageway. Miss Bamford, we also talked about this because I was thinking maybe it was like a tree and a branch for a tree, but you said that wasn't the case.
Yes, so no, we've been learning about the insides of pyramids, and we know that when the pharaohs built their pyramids, they built them with lots of little secret passageways everywhere. And I think they did it on purpose to stop people who would break into the pyramids finding their tombs. So it would have inside the pyramids, they would have had lots and lots of little trick passageways that would have led to nowhere. So I think that's what the branches are. Branches are all the little different passageways.
That makes much more sense. So there are lots of branches in the passageway, but all you have to do is follow the black hieroglyphs to get out. And then I can see there that the authors use something called an ellipsis. Can you see there, Miss Bamford? There's kind of like 3 dots. Because I'm thinking that Stanley's probably got all these things going on in his head, wanting to tell a bit more information, but then here goes Sir Hawara and he says, excellent, and kind of stops him straight away.
Yeah, cuts him off.
Exactly. Sir Hawara rubbed his hands together. I must get the crew ready. Meet me back here in the morning. At daybreak, we take the scrolls.
He climbed onto his camel and rode away, leaving Stanley bewildered. I wonder what that word means. How do you think Stanley was feeling? If he felt bewildered, how do you think he was feeling, Mrs. Nettey?
Well, when I sometimes get to a tricky word, I don't just ignore it because then I'm never going to learn. And I was saying last week to the year 5s that at home, we might not necessarily have dictionaries. I don't have a dictionary at my house. I know we have lots at school, but what I do have is my phone or my laptop. And phones are very clever now that you can ask somebody if you get a bit stuck. So rather than ignoring that word bewildered, I'm going to ask Siri to see if he can give me a definition, to see if it makes a bit more sense. Are you ready? Let's hope this works. Hey,
Good
Siri,
idea.
What does bewildered mean?
Bewildered means perplexed and confused, very puzzled.
Oh, confused and very puzzled. Does that make sense in that sentence, Miss Bamford?
I think that makes perfect sense. Just then, he felt a tug at his shirt. He turned to find Amicy there, glaring at him. That's who you've been working with. That's the worst looter of Egyptian treasures in the country. My father and I have been trying to catch him red-handed for years.
Oh, I know, red hat. So
Ooh.
he's painted his hands like a nice red colour.
I don't think he has painted his hands, Mrs. Nettey.
Oh.
So I think when you catch someone red-handed, you catch them like in the act of actually doing it.
I see. So he's been caught out.
Yes. So when you catch someone out doing the thing that you thought that they were up to, and then you catch them actually doing it, that's what I think we mean. The author means by caught him red-handed.
Thanks for clarifying.
I guess I was wrong about you, and she stomped off.
Stanley didn't know what to think. He climbed back onto his camel and followed Sir Hawara's party back to the bazaar. He was going to find out just what was going on. Back at Sir Hawara's headquarters, henchmen were everywhere. Henchmen, do you know what that means, Miss Bamford?
Oh, I think, are they like some men that travel around with Sir Hawara, do we think? Maybe his brothers?
They might be, but they're kind of like big, muscly men.
Oh.
Big, scary men. That's why they were everywhere.
Like
Stanley,
big security men, big security guards.
Exactly. You don't want to get on the wrong side of them.
No.
Stanley eased himself into the shadows and sneaked around to the back. That's probably because of the henchmen. He doesn't want to get caught. And
no,
actually,
he doesn't want them to see him.
When I think of shadows, I think of maybe in the dark, like a shadow is dark, isn't it? Actually, if you stand in the shadow, you can't really see what's around you.
Yeah.
So that's probably a good place for Stanley to be, in the shadows, if he's sneaking around to the back. He lifted the tent flap and peeked inside. It was even darker and smokier than before. Stanley took a deep breath of nice, fresh outside air. Then, using the nimbleness he had developed by slipping under the bedroom door at home, Stanley slipped under the flap. Sir Hawara was on his cushion, talking in a low voice. And I really, really like this next word. I wonder, before I tell you what it is, if anybody knows. Cautiously, comma.
Ooh.
Do we know what type of word that is? Have you done that in year 3, Miss Bamford?
We have looked at these kinds of words. Yeah, we have.
Is it an adjective?
Oh, I don't think so.
Cautiously. Fronted adverbial?
That's the one.
That's it, cautiously. And I really like it because it's described what's going to happen next. So Stanley crept closer so he could hear. I mean, you could take out cautiously out of that sentence and it would still make sense.
Yeah, or you could maybe even change it to carefully Stanley crept closer so he could hear.
Exactly. I really, really like that word though, cautiously, because actually that's thinking in my brain how he's approaching that. He's sneaking closer and closer. So, Miss Bamford, we've had a good few pages now where we've had a think about what the author has decided to do. I wonder now, though, if we carry on reading the rest of the story. And whilst we're reading, I would like the children to have a think about things that they like the author has done, things that they don't really like, so things that they dislike, maybe some patterns. So are there some things that are coming out over and over again throughout the rest of the story? And then some puzzles. So are there any questions that the children have about the text? So should we carry on reading, Miss Bamford?
Yes, sounds good.
What's that in the shadows? A guard jumped up, pointing towards Stanley. There was no place to hide. Stanley placed himself against a large container standing upright behind him and froze. It's nothing, said Sir Hawara, clapping his hands for silence. Oh, what is this next word, Miss Bamford? Just as the...
Just the sarcophagus.
That is a very, very long word.
That is a coffin.
Oh, is it?
Egyptian coffin. Yeah, sarcophagus. Even in the picture on the screen, you can see Stanley's like pressing himself into. That is the sarcophagus that he's pressing himself into.
Thank you so much. Good job you are here to help me. It's a very realistic painting on the cover. Quite a find. Now, pay attention to my plans. Stanley held himself perfectly still and listened keenly. Tomorrow, we send the flat boy into the tomb to unlock it for us. We take the scrolls and pack them onto a plane I have waiting. Carry on, Miss Bamford.
We'll be out of there before anyone is the wiser. Those scrolls will fetch a fortune. I'll be rich, rich, rich. And the beauty of it all is that no one will ever know they existed.
Did Stanley hear that?
I think he did. He did, because he's hiding.
Yes.
He did hear it, so he knows what Sir Hawara is up to. So Amacy was right. They were looters who were sneakier than the worst sneak thieves, and Stanley was helping them steal one of Egypt's greatest treasures. Stanley peeled himself off the sarcophagus quietly and slid back under the tent. Then he made his way to the National Historical Museum and climbed the steps. The least he could do was admit to Amacy and her father what he had done. The entryway was crowded with tourists. Immediately, Stanley found himself squashed in the centre of a particularly careless group. After a moment, though, through the tangle of arms and cameras, he saw Amacy and her father come in. They passed right by him. What about a very light bulletin board? He heard Amacy's father say. What about a map? I don't think so, father, Amacy replied. Besides, I think that bulletin board flattened his brains. Wait until I tell you what I just found out. Stanley worked himself free from the crowd and hurried after Amacy and her father. He caught up with them at the curator's office and called out. Amacy turned and frowned at him. Then she slammed the door shut. So I don't think Amacy's feeling too happy with Stanley at the minute, Mrs. Nettey.
Doesn't sound like it.
No. Somehow Stanley felt even flatter than before, as flat as the hieroglyph painted on the wall beside him. And then he had an idea that might just work.
Stanley ran to the main desk and scribbled a note. Please give this to the curator, he said. It's urgent. Thank you very much. Then he went back to the antiques bazaar. Oh, that doesn't say antiques. What does that say?
Antiquities.
Oh, what's that, Miss Bamford?
So it's the market where they sell all of these antique things. So like jewelry and rugs. So antiquities is just like the word for all of the kinds of things that they sell at the market. Old things.
I see. Planning his plan. The sky was growing dark. Stanley let himself into the camel's pen, and there he made a bed for himself by placing a stack of saddle blankets on a mound of straw and then laying himself into the stack. He closed his eyes, remembering that his parents insisted he and Arthur get a good night's sleep every evening. Great advice. Suddenly, Stanley missed his family very much. He wondered what they'd been doing while he'd been gone. Playing Monopoly, looking at pictures of their last family vacation to Mount Rushmore. Without him, Stanley's stomach grumbled with hunger. What had his family had for dinner that night? Meatloaf and mashed potatoes, his favourite, with an apple crisp for dessert, maybe. Beside him, a camel grunted and snorted. If he were at home, Arthur would be sleeping in the bed next to him right now. Arthur sometimes grunted and snorted in his sleep too, but Arthur smelled better than a camel, thought Stanley fondly, and he fell asleep. Miss Bamford, we're going to leave it there. See you later, Year 3. Bye.
Hope you've enjoyed it, Year 3. Thank you, Mrs.